Hey, what's really good? My name is Doree Allen Nieves, and this is Kicking It with Doree, the podcast. I wanted to talk about something kind of briefly, but something important, because I feel like there's times where sometimes we as women seek approval or are waiting for someone to give us permission to do the thing that we already do. This year, I'm doing a Goodreads reading challenge, and I've committed to reading 2 books a month. But I'm already way past that thanks to audiobooks. It's easy when someone's reading to you, much easier. One of the newest audiobooks that I got was by Rachel Hollis. She had a new book that came out in March called Girl Stop Apologizing. And I pre-ordered it because I love her podcast and, just her personality and her message. It's in the queue and I have not listened to it yet, along with umpteen other books that I've got in the queue. But the title alone, Girl Stop Apologizing, made me think about things that we as women feel like we need permission or approval for. Now, I know it's natural to seek approval. It's not like it's a bad thing in and of itself. I also am not what you would call a people pleaser. Now, I spent many years of my young life, as a lot of teenagers do, desperately wanting approval from friends and especially approval from my dad, which I talked about at length in my first book, which is called What's Wrong with Me. But even though it's natural to seek the approval of others, it's not always necessary, nor is it always beneficial. One of the reasons that we seek approval is because we fear rejection. Sometimes we just don't want to rock the boat. Sometimes it's something that we're taught. I remember when I was in high school and I used to dim my light. I actually would dumb myself down in order to be approved or be a little more popular with the other kids. I was an excellent student, especially when it came to anything that required you to read a book or write a paper or a book report. But I usually did my homework, and that's the reason why I knew a lot of the answers. I had like 4 or 5 study halls in my junior and senior years. And since I got my homework done early and I had all this extra time during the day, I would go and, spend time in other ways and not be in school. Kids would often put me into a category of being a nerd or being a good girl. In 11th grade, I was also a Black girl with light skin, straight hair, thanks to a relaxer. And some girls I knew that I was really tight with before, like when I was in 10th grade, 9th grade, 8th grade, whatever, turned on me like, you think you're better than everybody else. You trying to be white. And I'm not trying to be white. This is the way that my voice has always sounded. I don't add anything to it. This is me. But of course, I took that to heart. So I was taking some senior classes, trying to not have 10 study halls instead of 4. And I met a few people that were cool and that accepted me. And I guess they thought it was cool to be Black too. So they were Italian, but they were cool with me. And I started hanging out with them. They were seniors. They had their own cars and we would cut class. And I don't know if it was their classes, but for me, it was really just study halls. And they would blast R&B, reggaeton, and dance hall music. And we would just ride around town. They would smoke and curse and talk about people and all that. And really, I was just there hanging with the cool kids. I was the only Black girl in the group. I didn't care. They accepted me, I saw them as popular. And when one of them accepted me, the rest just followed. But of course, I grew up and thankfully I got out of that need to always want to feel accepted. I know some of us have issues with acceptance and permission and approval because we have the imposter syndrome or have had it. As we become adults and venture into the working world, as we get more into social media, we have to present ourselves as being professional and knowing what's going on with culture and present ourselves as being in the know. But sometimes we downplay our skills and knowledge because we're women, because we're just insecure, whatever. And we may feel like other people are judging us, or we think that everyone else is more experienced than us. Listen to these phrases and tell me if you've ever said them. The word just, putting just in front of something. If it's okay with you. For what it's worth, this might sound crazy, but I may be wrong, but does that make sense? These are belittling phrases that downplay your message or your request. You can ask or state something without saying these phrases, and the statement or request will be perceived with a lot more confidence and authority. There's not a wavering in there. I think we just need to own it. And I want to say this, if you don't hear anything else in this podcast, even though it's short and you should hear everything, listen to this part. Stop allowing people to think that you need their permission to be there. I'm going to say it one more time. Stop allowing people to think that you need their permission to be there. You have a right to walk in a room where it seems like everyone else is ahead of you and hold your own, even if you don't know it all. Your goal is to own your personal power and express that confidence to others, even if you haven't fully realized your worth and you have to fake it until you make it. One of the best ways to improve your confidence is to act it out and speak it even before you fully 100% believe it. Hello, affirmations. We always talk about affirmations, and that's why they're so popular, because as you continue to say something and say something and say something and say something, you start to believe it, whether it's good or bad. We all have self-doubt sometimes, though. I still do, believe it or not, but I don't let negative thoughts hang around and watch cable in my brain until, they feel like leaving. You can overcome this self-doubt and this feeling that you need permission or approval by doing some of these things. First, you can present yourself as you belong by your skill and your conduct as you interact with others. If you've read about something, if you've practiced something, if you know anything about something, then you can go into a room where people may know more and hold your own. The way you speak to people, your attitude, your level of service. You know that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care? People want to work with people that they can get along with. It's great if you know a lot, but if you're a jerk, then people aren't going to want to be around you, period. So money or no money involved, it's not going to happen. And here's a big one for me. Your integrity. Doing what you say you will do. Being dependable and trustworthy. This, my friend, are the major ingredients of how you own your greatness and walk in it. Now, in my next episode, I will have a guest on who is going to share with us more ways that we can be assertive with others. So I'll see you then, and thanks for kicking it with me. Thank you for kicking it with me today on the Kicking It with Doree podcast.